Hi everyone, I'm Giuliana and I'll be explaining about the Argentine drama, the dollar. The dollar has been a major drama for the country, mostly since the 70s, and the current government has recently implemented more restrictions for buying dollars, and now it is extremely hard to buy them legally. As always, this measure affects the middle class the most. Let's begin with the system that regulates dollar transactions, the Central Bank of Argentina. This autonomous institution is part of the national government but is also self-governed. It regulates the financial system, interest rates, and foreign exchange policies. Besides, other banks turn to the central bank to exchange pesos for dollars, which are part of the Federal Reserve. Currently, the bank has about $42 billion, $3 billion for paying the public debt, $11 billion belong to private banks, $19 billion are part of a swap with China, so approximately $9 billion are left. However, the government can only use half of it, the net reserves. If the bank keeps selling dollars, it will not be able to keep up with the demand, and here begins the problematic cycle. There is a shortage of dollars, then the price of the dollars increases. That leads to a rise in demand, which usually goes with the devaluation of the peso. And finally, there is a high inflation. All this cycle has more problems. Lower wages, people cannot buy many things, so the consumption decreases, the economic activity drops, and the government doesn't collect enough taxes. Thus, the government turns to creditors and generates public debt. However, without the proper investments and regulations, now the problem continues and the cycle goes on and on. The big question is, what causes the dollar demand? What causes the dollar demand? Well, there are a few theories. The first one is the culture. Due to our history, it seems that people have always felt an atmosphere of uncertainty. So in order to have financial protection, they exchange their pesos for dollars. This is called the store of value. Although President Fernandez almost blamed the ones who bought the dollar ahorro by saying that those dollars were for production, not storage, well, according to a financial study, dollar savings were only $1.8 billion, a very small percentage of the reserves. And had the government paid $9 billion to its private creditors to build trust, 5 times more than what is paid by the middle class. Clearly, the citizens that exchange pesos for dollars are not the main problem. The second theory is the industrial supplies. In general, the dollar price increases when the industry imports supply for production. A large production makes the economy of a country grow. However, this is not the case for Argentina. This year, due to the industrial activity decreased by 19.5% due to the pandemic and the economic crisis. So, after all, those imports do not justify the shortage of dollars. And the final theory is trust. The thing is that for decades, the financial and productive markets didn't trust our presidents. Many liberals did lots of critiques. The most famous one is that there are too many economic regulations. It was all the same with Peronism, with Menem, with Alfonsín, with De la Rúa, and with Kirchnerism. However, Macri was expected to do the best. He was a CEO and part of the Argentinian economic elite. He had the confidence of the markets. He became president and eliminated some regulations. That's why local companies made their fortunes and then fled their dollars, because there were no limits. Then the former president turned to the MIF and other creditors. And here, the cycle that I talked about before started all over again. But we can make a point here. Even though everyone wants the country to thrive, actually the economic elite still speculates, eludes taxes, buys and then fly capitals. So, as we can see, while the middle class and lower class struggle to survive, the wealthy pretends to be suffering and keeps buying dollars, which is not the problem. The problem is that those dollars do not stay in the country. Many of them have offshore accounts and companies in tax haven, like for example Marcelo Tinelli. Just between 2015 and 2019, according to the central bank report, Macri went into debt for $100 billion and $86 billion were taken out of the country by companies such as Telecom, Arcor, Tichin, Pampa Energia, among others. Meanwhile, the media, which some part is owned by those companies, kept saying that we are all in this together, when obviously we are not. Newspapers and news channels always argue about who is right and who is wrong, left or right, and no one proposes real methods or developing programs to improve the country. Currently in Argentina, those businesses are trying to make the government step back in some policies, and it's working because the Minister of Economy, Martin Guzman, has lowered agricultural regulations and has also provided some benefits for mining. The big picture shows that Argentina has been struggling for decades. Due to the 70s dictatorship, we changed our productive system for the capital asset pricing model, with the high public spending is financed by printing money, and governments are always most likely to benefit from themselves instead of the population. The union leaders, which have been in the same place for decades, they allow the minimum wage to be 21,000 pesos, while they are earning much more than that, and taxes that suffocate small and medium-sized enterprises. In the end, it seems that this is a game in which middle and lower classes like you and me cannot play. With this presentation, I just wanted to show that there is a big difference between the regular citizens and the wealthy ones, and that the dollar crisis does not affect everyone in the same way. Thank you very much for your attention.